Hello students. In previous part we have understood the second process of mechanism of respiration, that is external respiration. In that we have seen how the exchange of gases takes place at the alveolar level or in the alveolus. Now in this part we are going to understand the third process of mechanism of respiration, that is internal respiration. Now in this internal respiration there are two main components which are involved in the transport of the respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, and those two main components are RBC and plasma. Now suppose this is the blood vessel. Suppose this is the blood vessel and these are the walls of blood vessel. These are the walls of blood vessel. Now in this blood vessel there are RBCs. There are RBCs, then there are WBCs, and there are platelets. Then there is a fluid around these RBC and WBCs. So these are the RBC. This is the WBC. And these are the platelets. And this fluid, it is the blood plasma. So in this internal respiration, two main components are there which help in the transport or which are involved in the transport of the respiratory gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide. And those two main components are the RBC and the plasma. Now these RBC, they contain hemoglobin. We will look into it. Now this internal respiration is in this internal respiration there are two types of transport. First is the transport of oxygen and second is the transport of carbon dioxide. First we will understand the transport of oxygen. Now of the total oxygen that is transported, only 3% is transported in dissolved state by plasma and the remaining 97% is bound to the hemoglobin. Now suppose if 100% of oxygen enters in our body, out of that 100%, 3% of oxygen is carried by the blood plasma in dissolved form and remaining 97% of oxygen is carried by the hemoglobin which is present in the RBCs. So if 100% of oxygen enters in our body, 3% of oxygen is carried by the blood plasma in dissolved form and the remaining 97% of oxygen is carried by the hemoglobin which is present in the RBCs. Now this hemoglobin is it acts as a respiratory carrier. This hemoglobin, it is called as the respiratory carrier or it acts as the respiratory carrier. Why? Because it binds with oxygen, it binds with carbon dioxide, it also binds with carbon monoxide and it also binds with protons. Now we know that hemoglobin is a respiratory carrier, so it carries respiratory gases and respiratory gases are oxygen and carbon dioxide. So it binds with oxygen and carbon dioxide, it is normal. But when this hemoglobin, it binds with carbon monoxide, it gives rise to respiratory disorders. It gives rise to respiratory disorders and then it also binds with the protons. But out of all these things, the hemoglobin shows its most love towards the oxygen. It shows its most love towards the oxygen, or it has high affinity for oxygen. It has high affinity for oxygen and it combines with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. Now that is hemoglobin plus 4 molecules of oxygen and it becomes oxyhemoglobin. Now say suppose this hemoglobin, it combines with 4 molecules of oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. Now this 4O2 is just for you to understand. 4 molecules of oxygen are bounded by this hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. Now 1 molecule of hemoglobin has 4 ferrous ions and each of it picks up 1 molecule of oxygen. So these 1 molecule of hemoglobin, say suppose this is the molecule of hemoglobin. This is the molecule of hemoglobin. It has 4 ferrous ions. So suppose these are the ferrous ions. These are the ferrous ions. Now these ferrous ions, they bound 1 molecule of oxygen each. So here 1 molecule of oxygen will get binded, here 1 molecule, here 1 molecule and here 1 molecule of oxygen will get binded. So this hemoglobin with the 4 molecules of oxygen will become oxyhemoglobin. This will become the oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin. Now this oxyhemoglobin is transported from lungs to tissues where it dissociates to release oxygen. Now as we have seen in previous part that the blood which passes from the capillaries which are surrounded by the alveolus, or the capillaries which surround the alveolus, they carry blood and this blood carries oxygen in it. This oxygen is taken to the heart and from the heart it is pumped to all parts of the body. Now this blood goes into the tissues, from lungs to the tissues, and in the tissues this blood, it dissociates, this oxyhemoglobin, it dissociates to release the oxygen. So this oxyhemoglobin, it goes to the tissues and in those tissues it dissociates, means hemoglobin gets separated from the oxygen molecules. Now this oxygen is used up by the tissues and only hemoglobin remains over here. This hemoglobin is called as deoxyhemoglobin. Deoxyhemoglobin. Now the hemoglobin with oxygen is called as oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin without oxygen is called as deoxyhemoglobin. So this oxyhemoglobin is transported from lungs and from lungs to the tissues, and in the tissues it dissociates to release the oxygen, and that released oxygen is used up by the tissues, and the hemoglobin which is left over, that is called as the deoxyhemoglobin without the oxygen molecules. Now the degree of saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen depends upon the oxygen tension or partial pressure of oxygen. Now suppose if there are 100 molecules of hemoglobin, if there are 100 molecules of hemoglobin, these 100 molecules of hemoglobin will take up to 400 molecules of oxygen. Now why 400 molecules of oxygen? Suppose if this is the structure of hemoglobin molecule. This hemoglobin molecule has 4 ferrous ions, and these ferrous ions, they hold the oxygen molecule. They hold the oxygen molecule. So, one molecule of hemoglobin can hold up to 4 molecules of oxygen. So, 100 molecules of hemoglobin can hold up to 400 molecules of oxygen. Their capacity to hold the oxygen molecules is up to 400. So, these 100 molecules of hemoglobin with these 400 molecules of oxygen are said to be saturated with oxygen, with these 400 molecules of oxygen. These 100 molecules of hemoglobin are said to be saturated with these 400 molecules of oxygen. Now here, what is this oxygen tension which is mentioned over here? Now suppose if the lungs have about 1000 molecules of oxygen. The lungs are having about 1000 molecules of oxygen, for example. Now from these, the hemoglobin takes up 400 molecules of oxygen. Hemoglobin takes up to 400 molecules of oxygen. So the remaining will be 600 molecules of oxygen. These will not be used. So whatever amount of oxygen which is present inside the lungs, this amount is said to be the oxygen tension. This is said to be the oxygen tension, or it is also called as partial pressure of oxygen. So the amount of oxygen molecules which is present, or the amount of oxygen which is present in the lungs, that amount is called as the oxygen tension, or partial pressure of oxygen. Now 100% of saturation is very rare. Maximum saturation, that is 95 to 97%, is at partial pressure of 100 millimeters of Hg or mercury at alveoli. Now the maximum saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen molecules is very rare. 100% of oxygen will be carried over by this hemoglobin molecules is very rare. Maximum saturation is from 95% to 97%, and that is at the partial pressure of 100 millimeters of mercury. 100 millimeters of mercury, there is a maximum saturation of hemoglobin with the oxygen molecules, that is 95 to 97%, and that is at observed at the lungs, at the in the alveoli at the lungs. So if the partial pressure of oxygen is 100 millimeters of mercury, the saturation of hemoglobin will be 95 to 97% with oxygen. But what happens when the body is at normal resting position, or when the body normally rests? At that time, the partial pressure of oxygen is 30 and the saturation of hemoglobin will be 50. Now here at this partial pressure, what happens? Two kind of cases are seen. When the first case, when the body starts exercising, or the tissues start working, at that time what happens? The oxygen which is present in the plasma of the blood is used up by the tissues, and these tissues, they borrow oxygen from the hemoglobin. And here hemoglobin, what it does, it sacrifices its love for oxygen, and it gives the oxygen to the tissues which are working. So here, as we know, the hemoglobin, it has 4 bonds of oxygen. It has 4 bonds of oxygen. So at the partial pressure of 30, it is already at 50%. So it already has only 2 bonds of oxygen. Already it has given the 2 bonds somewhere. So here it has only the 2 bonds of oxygen. Now here also, if the tissues are borrowing oxygen from it, this hemoglobin, it gives away the oxygen to the tissues. It gives away the oxygen to the tissues, and this giving away of oxygen to the tissues, this is called as the dissociation. This is called as dissociation, or this is called as the oxygen dissociates. Hemoglobin dissociates to release the oxygen in the tissues. Now let us see why we have taken here the partial pressure of 30. Partial pressure to 30. Why not 90 and why not 100? So as we know, the maximum amount of oxygen is present in the region of lungs, or in the lungs. As the blood travels from the lungs, or as these lungs, they transport the blood to the heart, and the heart transports the blood to the body, pumps the blood to the body. In the body it reaches to the organs, and from the organs it reaches to the tissues. So now as this blood, it travels from the lungs to different parts of the body, here in the lungs there is maximum partial pressure of oxygen. Say suppose about this is about 100 millimeters of Hg. So as it travels further to the different parts of body, what happens? The blood, it distributes the oxygen to different parts of the body as it reaches them, and while it comes to the tissues, only 30% of oxygen is remaining when it comes to the tissues. That's why we have taken here 30%. What happens? The blood also does work over here. It has to travel from one part to another part of the body, and it has to face resistance. So that's why it gives away the oxygen which is present inside it to different parts of the body as it travels, or as it reaches them. So when it reaches to the tissues, the amount of the partial pressure of oxygen which is remained over here, that is up to 30. So now here at the partial pressure of 30, what happens? Two types of situations occur, or two kinds of cases occur. First, when the body is at normal rest position, or when the body is doing normal rest, when the tissues are doing normal rest, at that time the saturation of hemoglobin is 50%. When the body is resting, at that time the saturation of hemoglobin is 50%. But when the body starts working, or the tissues start working, at that time the saturation work or exercise, at that time the saturation of hemoglobin decreases. So here this decrease in the saturation of hemoglobin is shown in the form of a shift in the curve. This is the normal curve, which from the 100 millimeters of mercury, this is the normal one, 100 millimeters of mercury. If the partial pressure is 100 millimeters of mercury, the saturation will be 95 to 97. This black colored curve is shown as the normal curve of 95 to 97% of saturation of Hb to 100 millimeters of mercury. But what happens at the partial pressure of 30, when the body starts exercising, when the tissues start working, at that time the saturation, it decreases. Saturation decreases, and this normal curve, it shifts towards the right. It shifts slightly towards the right side, and this shift is called as the Bors effect or Bohr's shift, because it was shown first by Bohr. So it is called as the Bohr's effect or shift. So here, if this hemoglobin does not give oxygen to the tissues, what will happen? The tissues will get injured and they will suffer from the fatigue. So that's why this oxygen, it sacrifices its love for oxygen, or it gives away its oxygen to the tissues so that the tissues can carry their work on. Now let's see another case when the body is at maximum rest or the tissues are at maximum rest. Another effect is seen, that is called as the Haldon's effect. Now here the body is at maximum rest. What happens at the partial pressure of 30? When the body is at maximum rest, no work is done by the tissues at all. So at that time, this curve, it shifts towards the left side. It shifts towards the left side and the saturation of hemoglobin rises. The saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen rises. So no oxygen is used over here when the body is at rest. The tissues do not use up the oxygen. So the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen will rise, and this rises up to 70%. So this 70% at the partial pressure of 30 when no work is done or no tissues do not perform any work. At that time, this curve, it shifts towards the left hand side and the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen increases up to 70, and this effect is called as the Haldon's effect. Haldon's effect. Now, where can this situation seen? Where can this situation be seen? Suppose lungs, we know that lungs, they pass or they transport blood to the heart. Heart transports the blood to the body, and in the body the blood is transported to the organs, from the organs to the tissues. So the lungs, they pass the blood to the heart, heart passes the blood to the body, in the body the blood is passed to the organs, and from the organs the blood is passed to the tissues. Now this here in the lungs, the partial pressure of oxygen is about 100 millimeters of mercury, and here the saturation of hemoglobin will be the most or maximum. So the saturation of hemoglobin will also be 95 to 97%, that is maximum. So as this blood goes further in the other body parts and it travels in other body parts, what happens? This blood, the saturation of the hemoglobin, it decreases, as well as the partial pressure also decreases. So here the saturation, the percent of saturation of hemoglobin decreases. Now in 3 cases. First, when the body is at normal rest, the saturation will be 50%. Saturation of hemoglobin will be 50%. Second, when the body is exercising or working, at that time the saturation of hemoglobin will be 30%. And third situation, when the body does not do any work at all, means no work is done. No work is done at all. At this situation, the saturation of hemoglobin rises up to 70%. So here, as the blood passes from the lungs to the tissues, at the lungs the partial pressure of oxygen is more, that is 100 millimeters of mercury. The saturation of hemoglobin will also be maximum, that is 95 to 97%. As this blood travels further in the body, it distributes the oxygen, it gives away the oxygen till it reaches the tissues. And when it reaches the tissues, the percent of saturation of hemoglobin it decreases according to these situations. First situation, when the body is resting at normal position, the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen will be 50%. And when the body is exercising at the same partial pressure, what happens? The saturation of hemoglobin will be 30%. And when no work is done at all, no oxygen is used, so the saturation of oxygen of hemoglobin will be raised up or will increase to 70%. So here this this is shown, this decrease and increase, this decrease in the saturation and the partial pressure is shown with the help of the graph or the curve. This curve is known as the oxygen dissociation curve, because here, as the partial pressure decreases, the saturation of hemoglobin also decreases. So this curve or this graph shows the dissociation, how the hemoglobin dissociates the oxygen. So that's why this curve is called as the oxygen dissociation curve. Now when this curve, this normal curve, it shifts to the right side, it is said as the Bohr's effect. And when it shifts to the left side, it is said as the Haldon's effect. Both of these effects are opposite to each other. And this graph or this curve, it shows that as the partial pressure of oxygen decreases, the saturation of hemoglobin also decreases. So this relationship between the oxyhemoglobin saturation and oxygen tension is called as the oxygen dissociation curve. So this curve that we have seen here, this curve shows how the oxygen is dissociated as the partial pressure decreases. So that's why this curve is called as the oxygen dissociation curve. And this oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve is a sigmoid curve, and it shifts towards the right due to the increase in H plus concentration, increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and rise in the temperature and rise in DPG, that is 2,3-diphosphoglycerate, which is formed during the glycolysis. It lowers the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. Now why this curve, it shifts towards the right side? It is because of the increase in H plus concentration, also increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, increase in the temperature, and formation of DPG, 2,3-DPG, which is formed during the glycolysis. So all these factors, they make the curve to shift towards the right side. All these factors, they lower the affinity of hemoglobin to carry oxygen, and as the affinity of hemoglobin to carry oxygen reduces or decreases, the curve gets shifted towards the right side. Now how this concentration of H plus increases? As we know that the tissues they perform work, right? Tissues, they perform work, and when they perform work, they use up oxygen. They use up oxygen and they give out carbon dioxide. when the tissues, they perform work, they use oxygen and they give out carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide, it combines with the water molecules. It combines with the water molecules to form H2CO3. To form H2CO3. Now this H2CO3, it is not stable in the body. It is not stable in the body. So what it does, it splits up. It gets splits up in H plus ions and H2CO3 negative. So this H2CO3 is not stable in the body. It gets splits up into H plus ions and H2CO3 negative. So this this splitting of this H2CO3 increases the H plus concentration. Now let us revise how this right shift, what are the reasons of the right shift, and how does it affect the saturation of the hemoglobin. So right shift or Bohr's shift. Right shift, let us write here the reasons and here effects. Reasons and effects. So the first reason for this right shift, that is working or exercise or work. If the tissues they work, they use up the oxygen and they give out carbon dioxide. So here carbon dioxide increases. As the carbon dioxide increases, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide also increases. Partial pressure of carbon dioxide increases. Now this carbon dioxide combines with water molecules to form H2CO3. So H2CO3 increases. As H2CO3 increases, it is not stable. It splits up. It splits up into H plus ions and H2CO3 negative. So here it give rise to H plus concentration, or H plus concentration increases. H plus concentration increases. Now what happens? As the H plus concentration increases, pH decreases. The pH decreases, and also here the formation of 2,3-DPG, diphosphoglycerate. So these are the reasons of the right shift. Now let us see the effects of the right shift. So here the effects of right shift: saturation of hemoglobin decreases. Saturation of hemoglobin decreases. Saturation of hemoglobin decreases. So what happens? The affinity of hemoglobin to carry the oxygen also decreases. Affinity of hemoglobin to carry oxygen, or for oxygen also decreases. So these are the effects of the right shift. These are the reasons of the right shift, and these are the